Fairydust Crafters. I hope you're doing okay on this wonderful February afternoon. My name is Gina and I come to you from my small little craft space here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. You may hear this. I got a little bit of a cold, but I'm still drinking coffee. I hope you have a hot beverage or anything else to sip on, as well as something to work on maybe for the next like half hour or so. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Fairydust Knits. Everything that I talk about here, you'll find like all the information just down below in the show notes, where it says more underneath the title. Yeah, this is episode 19 of Fairydust Crafts. I'm very happy that you guys are here today, and let's just talk knitting. I have no FOs for you, but I have a couple whips and my January stats. So let's just start with those. This is a first for me, so I'm still kind of like trying to figure out how to do this. I keep my stats literally in my daily planner, just because I find it's the easiest way for me to keep track. I just have a little list where I put all of my ins and outs. So this month I bought, because I am part of the Polka Dot Creek blanket club in 2024, I bought the yarn for the first 3 months. That arrived in January. So I already have the yarn for January, February, and March, and then on March 1st, I believe it is, when her spots open again for the next installment of the blanket club. So you'll be buying April, May, and June. Is that right? Yes, April, May, and June in March. So I have in January total yardage coming in. So I'm just gonna go by yards because I find that's probably the easiest way to keep track of. I, for the most part, do buy fingering weight yarn, but every so often, as I actually did this past month, I buy like a DK or a worsted. Excuse me. So January in was 3,819 yards and out, so I used up 2,141 yards, which isn't too bad. I know I could do better, but that's my in and out. I did include my ginger snap advents that I had used up all the way until January 31st. Those were 9 20-gram minis, so 9 times 92 yards. And I use up, like, except for the tiniest little bit, I use up the whole 20 grams. I do still have those itty bitty tiny little leftovers. Those are gonna go into a new blanket that I have mapped out, and I've done all the math. I have not started it yet. That's gonna be my itty bitty tiny little scrap blanket, and I think I'm just gonna put all of those tiny little scraps into a magic knot. The magic knot ball, sorry. I think that's like the easiest way to handle them. So in total right now, so in January, I have plus 1,678 yards, which is not too bad. That's like what, 2 hanks of fingering weight yarn plus a little bit, plus like a couple minis or so. So that's not too bad. I think I'm okay with that. Part of the Polka Dot Creek Blanket Club too was 2 hanks of a solid color, and I stashed those right away because I didn't really know what to do with them. As I mentioned last time, I changed up my whole layout of the blanket. I'm not doing the exact blanket that they are knitting, so I may not use those 2 hanks for my blanket. But yeah, that gives me, obviously because it's only been 1 month, that gives me a yearly stat so far of plus 1,678 yards. I think I'm doing okay. I think it's fine. It's good. It's okay to say I'm on like the right track here. I have, so I'm just gonna slide right into my whips. I've got all my notes here, just I've got my iPad right here. I have not quite completed my January socks. So every month I get my Yarnable subscription box where I get a one hank of sock yarn, and I will this year, trying to be really good about it, but I will complete that 1 pair of socks for myself in that month. Now, I haven't succeeded in January, not yet, but I just got a notification yesterday that my Yarnable for February is actually in the country now. It should get delivered tomorrow by the end of the day, it said. So I still have today to finish my pair of socks. So my goal is really, I want my pair of socks done before the second box arrives. I have, this here is Vanilla is the New Black. You can find all the information in my Ravelry page. And I've used up my January Yarnable, not used up, but used most of it. This is colorway How Time Flies by Hypnotic Yarns. So I have 1 finished sock, and I have 1 so close to being done. I will actually finish this tonight. That is my goal for today. It's like what, early afternoon right now, so I will absolutely be able to finish this. I have, I think, 10, 20, 30, about 40 rounds to go until I reach the toe, so that should absolutely be possible. And then the one, it's called Vanilla is the New Black because it's basically just a standard vanilla sock as we know it, but it has this really cool heel where you increase for the heel. So instead of like a general regular heel flapping gusset, it has, I don't know what it's called. If one of you guys knows what this type of heel is called, please let me know in the comments because I don't quite know. But you basically just increase and then you do a heel turn for all the decreases here. That shapes the whole heel. I'm very happy with these. These are really cool. I made them like extra long too, or like fairly long. I think they're like, the leg is a little longer than what I'm used to. But I really like it, and so far I don't have too much leftovers. Part of the leftovers here is gonna make it into my what's it called, Coziest memory blanket for 1 square, and then the rest I'll weigh it and see how much I have left over, because I'm hoping to maybe get a pair of shorties out of this. I really love this colorway. It's beautiful, and I will finish these tonight, so when the new ones arrive tomorrow, I will wind them up and wind up the yarn and start them right away. Those are just going to be a vanilla sock, and I think I'm going to do one with a shorter leg. I go back and forth between wanting more like longer leg socks and wanting like the kind of like stubbier kind, not shorties, but just kind of like they just like go maybe like 2-3 fingers width over your ankle, something like that. I go back and forth between that, so I'm just gonna, you know, switch it out. I've been doing lots of socks with very long legs, so I'm gonna do something a little different with the next ones. My next whip that I've been like really active with is my Anthology blanket. It looks really, really funny because it's basically just like a big bag or a big bucket. This is the Anthology blanket or Anthology throw, and I'm using all of my Ginger Snap Advent minis, and we are moving into blue now. I've already talked about this like quite in detail last week, so I just wanted to show you whereabouts I am. We're doing blues now, and I think after that, let me just cheat. I'm gonna just have a look at my basket here. After blue, we're gonna go into red, and then that's it. I am currently just about 60% in, so I will hit the 60% mark tonight, and yeah, it's like I feel like I'm getting places. It's definitely at this point when I knit it, it kind of like covers my lap, and it's really, really nice and soft and squishy. I am so excited about this, and I kind of want to do another one, but I have so many like scrappy blankets planned. It's like crazy. Then the other two blankets that I've been working on kind of like here and there in the last week is my Coziest memory blanket. I showed that one last week. The pattern is by Kemper Wray. I'm not gonna like pull it out because I literally only put in like a square, I believe. So I have the scrappy version of that, no scrap left behind, and I also have the Polka Dot Creek Blanket Club. That one I said last time that I'm only gonna show that once I'm done at the end of the month. Once I put in all of my colors. I do put updates in my Instagram stories every so often, so once I have like a new square done, I'll just put that in my stories, so you can always have a look at my stories and see where I'm at. But that's really what I've been working on most actively. I did cast on a new project. It's really nice. I really, really like it. Let me just grab it. My bag is really heavy because I got like my big notebook in there too. Okay, so I'm not very far yet because it's a fairly recent cast on, but I have, oh, look at how many of these I have. It's like, it's so long you can barely tell. This is the Quesnel cardigan by Megan Nodecker. And I am using Estelle's Eco Tweed DK. This is a absolutely beautiful, beautiful yarn. It is 50% organic wool, 25% organic alpaca, and 25% cellulosic viscose. So it is super soft. It's very lightweight. It's a woolen spun, so super lightweight. Very soft, but with the alpaca content in it, it's gonna be really, really warm. So I'm making this in a size medium, and I hope I won't regret it. I kind of like, it's supposed to fit a little larger, kind of like oversized. And I did the math for it, and I was kind of like in between doing a size small and a size medium, but because it's supposed to fit fairly oversized, I thought I would just stick with the medium. So I'm like in between those two sizes, small and medium. The cardigan is supposed to be worn with 8 to 12 inches of positive ease. My positive ease would be 7 inches with a small and 10.5 inches with a medium. So I thought I would go with a size medium just because with the small I would be like pretty much an inch under the recommended positive ease. So I thought, you know what, I don't want it to be too snug, especially not with this yarn, so I'm just gonna go with a medium and have 10 inches of positive ease. That should be like very comfy and kind of like airy, without being like too baggy or oversized. So I'm not very far yet. I have the ribbing and I think two repeats so far, 2 pattern repeats plus the ribbing. This is not a very difficult pattern. But it's fairly complex because you have like these blocks that repeat your patterns. So I just mark those with my stitch markers here. So in between two of these markers is always one pattern repeat, and you just kind of like gotta piece those together. So it's not mindless knitting. You definitely gotta pay attention, but I do have my printed pattern where I have like all of my my different, like my stitch guide, my different pattern repeats, and then I use my phone for the actual, it tells you like which patterns to repeat in what order and how many stitches you have in those. So there is a chart, looks like that, where it tells you which pattern to do, like in order, if that makes sense. So on my phone, I just have this, and then what I do is I just mark it off. So every time I do a pattern repeat, I mark it off. And because I would have to, like using my phone, I would have to like flip the pages back and forth to figure out which pattern repeats I gotta do, I just printed it. So I just have it kind of like sitting right beside me, and I can go by that and also just tick it off on my phone. So far, that's worked really, really well. So this is it's a bottom-up cardigan, so I still have like ways to go until I split for my sleeves. And yeah, this is kind of like a in-between project. I thought it would be, with all the different pattern repeats, I thought this would be a great project to just, you know, pick up, do a pattern repeat, because they're only like 4 to 6 or so rows where you do a pattern repeat, so I can just sit down, do one, and then do something else. Which leads me to a new, not project that I have, but if you've been here since the beginning, or if you've watched like the last couple episodes, I am here because I have so many whips and I need somebody to like hold me accountable for all of my whips, which is YouTube. So this is where I talk about, where I try to really tackle all of these whips. And I thought about how to do this. And with this new, like how to tackle all of those. So I won't be too overwhelmed with like so many projects, and like I want to cast on new things too. So like, how do I manage all of this? So I came up with a new whip management plan that I thought I would just try and figure out in the next like month or so maybe. And see how it goes. But what I've been doing in this past week, ever since I started this cardigan actually, is I sit down and I do either a pattern repeat, or I do one round of a blank of like my anthology throw, or however many rounds of a sock, and I switch back and forth. So I came up with, I think I'm gonna actually create a spreadsheet. I just kind of like doodled it out. So right now I have about 5 or 6 projects that I want to actively work on, and that I do want to, you know, like get out of my way basically. So I think that's what I'm gonna do, that's how I'm gonna tackle this. I will just follow my list. And for the first little bit, I thought, oh, maybe I would do it by time, because I work really well with timers. That's what I usually do for my 30 minutes of knitting, where I set a timer on my phone, 30 minutes, and once it goes off, I put it down, and that's it. That works really well for a blanket or a pair of socks where you don't follow a pattern, and you can just, especially because it is knit in the round, you can just put it down. You don't have to finish your row. Anytime you work anything with rows, I always highly recommend finishing your row. For several reasons. The top reason is that you don't accidentally do short rows and just go the wrong way. That can happen. And the other reason is, what if you put it down for like 2 or 3 days, and maybe in those 2 or 3 days your gauge has slightly changed. Now if you're, or just like even when you pick it up after like a few hours and you're a little looser or a little more tense, that makes your gauge change. Now when you're doing just a next row, you're not gonna really see it as prominently as if you were still in the same row. It actually does make a little bit of a difference. Not crazy, but it does. And then the other reason too is you don't want, with a row, you don't want your needles to slide out. Like that can actually happen too. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'll create a spreadsheet for myself and put those projects on there, and that's really what I'll be working on for however long until I have one done. One of them is, that's probably the one that's on top of my list, is my November cardigan, because I want that done so bad and I just can't seem to have the motivation to pick it up and actively work on it. So I think if it is on my list, on my like to-do list for my whips, I can just pick it up. I'll do 10 repeats of my pattern, which is 20 rounds. Right now I'm working on my second sleeve. So once I have those 10 repeats, I put it down and I grab my second or my next project. And the reason why I'm only choosing maybe 5 or 6 projects is because I can put, not all of them, but I can put kind of like project bags into my basket. I have my anthology throw and my coziest memories both in my big basket here. And it's not full. I still have like lots and lots of room here, so I can just put a smaller project bag on top, or my little basket where I have where I keep my sock project in, that can all just sit on top, and then I can move it from here where I like to craft. I like to craft in this chair because it's nice and cozy and comfy, and I have like my yarns everywhere and like all my tools. But at the end of the day, I sit in front of the TV, so I wanna just be able to grab that, move it to the TV, and have like everything right there. So that's my plan. I've been trying to really come up with ideas on how to tackle all of these whips without being too overwhelmed. So when I did my inaugural episode, after that I was quite overwhelmed with how many works in progress I actually have. And then same when I did my little recap in like the first week of January, I was kind of overwhelmed seeing that I have like 30 plus projects, 30 plus whips to work on. I was like, well, but like, how am I ever get to those? How am I ever picking up my next one? And I think this is a really great way to tackle those whips and to really get things done. I am at a point where I'm absolutely fine just frogging things. I have frogged so many projects in the last like few months, like ever since I started my podcast here. I've frogged so many projects that I can just sit down, look at something at this point, I'm like, I don't really like it that much anymore. I'm just gonna frog it and I'll use the yarn for something different. A big one has been all of these scrappy blankets for me in the last little bit, because I can use up all of the yarn I have and then it's gone. It doesn't take up space anymore. I think for me that is really the hardest thing, is that all of the like half done projects and like the half used up yarns take up so much space. And ever since I've gotten in the habit of really like using up that full ball of yarn, I feel so much better. Like it's like so much weight off my shoulders. Yeah, I think that's like one of those like smaller things that I really want to work on this year, and it helps improve myself too. And the more like clutter. I don't want to call my yarn clutter, but like the more things that I can get off my back and used up, the better it makes me feel. I feel lighter just by having, you know, a pair of socks to wear rather than 2 half balls of yarn sitting around somewhere. So that's a big one to work on this year. What do you think? Do you have any, like all of you guys who have lots of whips, or quite a few whips, or a gigantic yarn stash, or tons and tons of UFOs and yarn remnants? What do you do? How do you tackle your whips? Do you just work on one at a time, or do you circle between like a few of them? Do you work on every single project that you have, or do you just abandon some and then they just sit in a closet forever? How do you tackle your whips and how do you tackle your stash? Let me know in the comments. I'm gonna finish my coffee now and finish those socks, and then I'm gonna make myself like a proper little spreadsheet where I can just tick off my little progress for the next little while. And we will check in again next week and see how it went. I'll be your guinea pig and I'll try this out for a week and see how it goes, see if it is successful or not. Maybe I have to keep going for a little longer. Until then, I will see you guys very soon, and happy crafting. Bye.